Citius, Altius, Fortius, faster, higher, stronger. But the eternal question remains unanswered. Who is the fastest man in the world? Tradition says it should be Canadian Donovan Bailey. He is the reigning world and Olympic champion at 100 meters. At last year's Olympics, he was clocked at 27 miles per hour in the 100 meters final. The winner of the 100 has always been crowned the world's fastest man. But American Michael Johnson is challenging tradition. The world and Olympic champion at 200 meters, Johnson obliterated the world record by such a devastating margin that traditional thinking has been rendered obsolete, giving rise once again to the question, who is the world's fastest man?
If I go in there and win, which I fully expect to, I consider myself still the fastest man in the world. If I lose, then I'm not. Simple as that.
Well, you know, Michael, if you want to be the fastest man in the world, run the 100 meters. Figure it out. It's a straightaway. We sprinters, power sprinters, that's what we do. Step in the event if you're a man.
Today, 2 men, 1 track, 1 curve, 150 meters. And when the sun sets on this one, either Donovan Bailey or Michael Johnson will be able to say, I am the world's fastest man. One of the great wonders of the sporting world, SkyDome at CN Center, and a lot of Canadian and American flags out here to root for Michael Johnson and Donovan Bailey. And all week long, they've been talking and arguing, but the race is on indeed. In just a little more than 40 minutes from now. And a little while ago, Michael Johnson was the first to arrive. They say he is one of the most focused athletes ever. And he was as he walked into his dressing room here at SkyDome. With about as much fanfare, meaning none, Donovan Bailey arrived as well. And the crowd wanted to know how he felt, and he had no words. Focused again, too, for the more than 40,000 folks who have turned out to declare the world's fastest man. Will it be Michael Johnson, or will it be Donovan Bailey? And we are just to the right of where Joe Carter hit that home run to win the World Series, Game 6, against Mitch Williams and Philadelphia. Who could forget that? And here we are. Hi again, everybody. I'm Pat O'Brien. Glad you're with us on this Sunday afternoon. Well, tomorrow they elect a prime minister here in Canada, and today we anoint the world's fastest man. And much like a heavyweight fight here, some money involved, $500,000 to each contender, $1 million to the winner. And like a heavyweight fight, a lot of threats, a lot of talk, and a little bit of controversy. Yesterday, both athletes came to SkyDome to check out the track. There's Donovan Bailey. He was unhappy with the turn, 75 meters. He thought it felt or seemed more like 85 meters and had things to say about that. And Michael Johnson there over to his right. They didn't say anything to each other. Both competitors, both focused on the race. Michael, by the way, likes what he sees. He is indeed the king of the curve, and he likes his race there. Donovan Bailey and Michael Johnson is our main event here. And calling the race for you this afternoon, Craig Masbeck, Dwight Stones, and our man Tim Ryan. The Ryan Express. Tim?
Thank you, Pat, and welcome to everybody for this exciting event. We've had plenty of excitement already, actually, over the course of the past week getting ready for it. A lot of the purists have scoffed at this race, and yet nonetheless we have 2 undisputed champions, and I think their performances at Atlanta would seem to make this a very legitimate matchup.
Well, first time the purists forget that this is the origins of track. Back in the 19th century, it was match races that got the sport going and led to the sport as we know it today. But if you look back to Atlanta, 2 things happened. Donovan Bailey put the stamp on the 100 meters. He not only won, he set a world record. Normally, he'd be the world's fastest man based on that. But when Michael Johnson ran 19.32 for the 200 meters, that changed tradition right there. This is a legitimate meet, halfway in between 100 and 200. Who knows what it will settle, but it's a legitimate event.
Well, having said that, Dwight, this has had all of the trappings of a heavyweight championship fight. There's been all kinds of controversy that's gone on all week long. These 2 guys, you saw them ignoring each other on the track yesterday. More hoopla than we ever would have expected.
Well, a lot of posturing, but more importantly, a lot of controversy over the track itself. 150-meter distance, part of it on the turn, part of it on the straight. They agreed that it should be 75 meters in the turn, 75 meters straightaway. There was some discussion about whether that was the exact configuration yesterday. Turns out it is. The people with the Mondo track service have decided, yes, this is 75 meters in the turn, 75 on the straight. They are 48-inch width turns, the width of the lane itself. So there's no advantage being gained by anyone. Michael Johnson will be in the stagger outside of Donovan Bailey, so Donovan will be able to watch him all the way around the turn. That should be an advantage, but Michael Johnson, I feel, will be so far out in front that it really won't matter. Donovan Bailey will try to catch him. I just don't think he'll be able to do that.
Okay, everybody, let's all thank Al for bringing the snacks.
Thanks, Al.
Gail, I believe it was your week to write something, wasn't it?
A Faraway Land by Gail Devers. Once upon a time, there was a faraway land where people fast and slow could join hands and sing in harmony, where you were judged by the size of your heart, not the size of your lead, where people looked past the zoom mirror in your shoes and saw the real you. The end.
Words can be powerful, can't they? Michael, hold my hand.
We are back at SkyDome. There is a live shot of Donovan Bailey, the Olympic and world champion, 95 and 96 in the Olympics, and the holder of the world record established at Atlanta, looking very relaxed there at the moment, awaiting his matchup against Michael Johnson.
Back in Toronto live at the world's fastest man. Who will it be, Johnson or Bailey? There's a live shot of Michael Johnson as he prepares to get in that outside lane and run the curve. He is the king of the curve, and he loves these conditions. You see him measuring the lane right there. Part of the controversy that Tim Ryan and Craig and Dwight were talking about earlier. And those are their final preparations as he focuses in on this race. And for Michael Johnson, it's been a year of applause and good cheer and glory, and he builds that success on one of his failures.
For me, that experience, which was the biggest disappointment of my career and the biggest disappointment of my entire life so far, it was a learning experience for me. I tried to turn everything into a positive, and at that point, that's all I could do. I couldn't go back and not go to that restaurant and eat whatever it was that I ate. I couldn't do that. So I think what happened with 92 was that I was able to take that experience and learn from it, and learn that there's more to life than track and field. I didn't have any people that I tried to emulate as far as heroes in the sport. And it wasn't until I got into college and started to really, really study the sport that I learned about Jesse Owens and what a great athlete he was, and the similarities between he and myself, and that he went out and did things that had never been done before in the sport. Just was a great athlete, as well as a great person who did things in this sport that no one will ever be able to repeat, in my opinion, because we won't ever be under the type of pressure that he was under to compete. So as far as heroes, now that I'm older and can understand, Jesse Owens was definitely my hero as far as sports is concerned, but not only in sports, in life. It wasn't one of those typical sports stories where, this guy wants to be, a professional track athlete, and 20 years down the road, he's realized his dream. He's the best track athlete in the world. I just wanted to be the best at something. I wanted to be the best at whatever I did. And, I had a lot of obstacles to overcome to get there. I had a lot of injuries in college when I knew that I could be the best. Finally getting over all of those injuries, then I had the huge disappointment of Barcelona. I have been blessed with the opportunity to go out here and have a job doing something that I love to do, compete. I'm a fortunate and blessed human being. The end.
Many forget that Johnson broke the world record twice last season, first toppling Pietro Manea's 17-year-old record at the U.S. Olympic trials, and then obliterating his own record at the Olympic final. Now, Donovan Bailey's rise to the top has been about as improbable as you can get. Born in Jamaica, moved to Canada at age 12, and then after college became a stockbroker, but he traded his wingtips in for the spikes and became one of the greatest 100-meter sprinters ever. In Canada, it seems every day is parade day for Donovan Bailey, and why not? In the last 2 years, all he's done is win the world and Olympic titles at 100 meters, as well as set the world record, beating all the top American sprinters along the way. This from a man who 4 years ago was wearing a business suit instead of a tracksuit.
I wanted to pursue track because I didn't want to become one of the woulda, shoulda, coulda guys. So I didn't want to get to 40 or 50 or 60 and regret not giving it a shot.
Bailey's transition from the stock market to the straightaway stunned the track world, but brought joy and much-needed relief to Canadian track fans who were still suffering from the stigma in the wake of the Ben Johnson drug scandal at the Seoul Olympics. That incident left an indelible impression on Bailey, who is willing to forgive but not forget.
I think what Ben Johnson did is a part of history. It's the biggest sporting scandal ever. No one will ever forget it. It was done on the biggest sporting stage. Drug use is wrong. I don't care what country you come from. I don't care what's going on. He did it once. And, I mean, I forgave him. I mean, I talked to Ben. I mean, everything was fine. I mean, but he did it a second time. Forget it. He's out of the sport. He doesn't belong in the sport. Not at all.
Bailey has helped restore pride to Canadian sprinting, so much so he's got an entire nation sprinting right along with him. Oh, Canada, he says, come fly with me. And there's Donovan Bailey now, and he said he was performing here under mental duress. He looks focused, listening to his disc man, and Michael Johnson right across the arena. He's testing out the track. This is live as they get ready to get it on in about 16 minutes from now. CBS Sports coverage of the world's fastest man will continue after this message and a word from the local station.
Britt still jumping in the pole vault competition. We'll be keeping track of that. We're looking live now at Donovan Bailey, and he'll be upcoming against Michael Johnson to decide who is the world's fastest man. Bailey in the blocks down there at the 100-meter track spot, not where he'll be actually starting. Well, these two have had a war of the words. It's been glorious to listen to. Take a listen.
I'm the world's fastest man.
I am the world's fastest man.
He's not. It's logical. He ran 23 miles an hour. It's about speed, Michael. You're not. I mean, it's stupid for him to even think like that.
Traditionally, the 100-meter man has always been known as the fastest man in the world. That was never an official title, but that's what myself included, all fans figured, this is the fastest man in the world. It was never called into question until I ran 19.32.
If I were American, none of this crap would happen. I think if I were American, I think they would realize it. They'd realize that I ran 9.84 from the blocks.
What if Donovan had won in 10.2? Is he still the fastest man in the world because he won the 100?
Mike is searching for something. He's searching for attention because he needs it. He needs it to live. He needs to survive because the only thing that he can describe himself as is a sprinter. He's a runner. There's nothing else to it. It's a shell. Without track, there's nothing.
He comes into the sport, and the following year, after his first year, 95, he wins the world championship, and he wins an Olympic gold medal. It's all new to him, and it's exciting. You don't want to let that go.
He needs something. He needs a crown to put on his head because he realizes that, it's not going to happen. The world's fast man thing, anywhere in the world, people see him as Michael Johnson, the 200-meter runner, not the world's fastest man. everywhere in the world. Well, you know, Michael, if you want to be the fastest man in the world, run the 100 meters. Figure it out. It's a straightaway. We sprinters, power sprinters, that's what we do. Step in the event if you're a man.
If I go in there and win, which I fully expect to, I consider myself still the fastest man in the world. If I lose, then I'm not. Simple as that.
Words to run by, and they will in just a short time. Live here on the CBS Sports Show, Donovan Bailey on his feet. He'll have the home crowd behind him, Canadian flags waving against Michael Johnson of the U.S. when we return.
Michael, before the break, you were talking about your nightmare.
The other night I had this nightmare that I was running in my Air Zoom Spiridons and everyone was looking at me, or trying to. I even heard this little girl say, "Mommy, why is that man all blurry?" I felt like screaming. Why can't people see the real me? You know, the guy who walks to the mailbox, the guy who chews his food slowly so it digests well. Can I stop now?
Of course you can. You're gonna make it, kiddo. Don't you doubt it for 1 minute.
I'm the world's fastest man.
World's fastest man. We'll find out in a moment what are the keys to victory for Michael Johnson, Craig.
Well, Tim, I think the keys for victory for Michael Johnson are to have a good start. The only time he loses at 200 meters is if he has a bad start. He's got to use his great advantages on the turn. Run a great turn, make a good transition from the turn to the straightaway, and then do what he does best on the straightaway, which is to have what I call a sewing machine look, putting those feet up and down very, very quickly.
All right, Dwight, what about Donovan Bailey and his chances here? What does he have to do?
Well, Donovan Bailey is the quintessential relaxed concentration. If you saw him behind the blocks in Atlanta, he was not bothered by all the false starts that happened there. He must have an excellent start, not just a good one, because he's going to be trying to close the gap between he and Michael on the turn. He has got to try and compensate for his terrible body position that he has throughout any race he does. He vibrates back and forth from side to side. He has to try as much as he can to overcome his weaknesses of not being a good turn runner. He does not have a good 200-meter time. And lastly, he must work on the strength that he has over 100 meters, past 100 meters. He is great from 50 to 100. Can he extend that past 100 meters? That would be the key to Donovan winning this particular race.
Well, these folks have been here, most of them, since about 3 o'clock when the Blues Brothers performed, but they have come for approximately 15 seconds of action on the track featuring their hero, Olympic champion and world record holder Donovan Bailey, taking on America's Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson, world record holder at 200 meters, double gold medalist at Atlanta. And on the stagger at the start, Johnson will be approximately 8 feet ahead. You're looking at Bailey, who chose the inside lane, and as we have been saying throughout this program, has been complaining about the configuration of the track. He expected the curve to be less sharp and had hoped for a longer straightaway. He got neither, but he's running.
Michael Johnson said to Donovan Bailey yesterday, if you think your lane is too tight, let's trade lanes. I'll take the inside, and I'll give you a meter lead. Donovan Bailey didn't have any of that.
And we were talking about the configuration of this track. It's supposed to simulate lanes 3 and 4 from Atlanta. Remember that Michael Johnson set his world record in Atlanta from lane 3, so he's actually running 1 lane out from that slightly gentler curve. But Johnson is the greatest turn runner in history. That should be the key.
In the blocks and ready to go. Explosive start by Johnson. Pretty good start by Donovan Bailey. Bailey on the lead. Bailey on the lead, and Johnson has pulled up lane. Bailey will win it easily. Johnson has pulled up lane. What a tragic finish after all of the hype and all of the war of words. Johnson pulled a muscle.
Donovan Bailey doing what he said he would do. He said he would put pressure on over the first 50 meters and would put Michael Johnson in a position that Michael Johnson wasn't familiar with last year and in earlier years in 200 meters. He ran a storming turn against all odds. Everyone said, including me, that Michael Johnson was the guy with shorter legs, a lower center of gravity, the man who the turn would favor. And you have to wonder when the injury came to Michael Johnson. What point in the race did he feel that?
They seem to pull up very quickly with about 40 meters to go. We'll take a look at it again. I'm sure there is a standing ovation here. And a sizable crowd, as it turned out, at the SkyDome. Their hero, Olympic champion, Donovan Bailey, is indeed the world's fastest man. But Michael Johnson in some obvious pain. Bailey was ahead before the injury appeared to occur, at least to affect him. Bailey, I guess the question, gentlemen, could he go 150 without decelerating too much? It appears that he has answered that question and certainly is the world's fastest man.
Well, the time of 15 seconds flat doesn't really answer the questions of fastest man in terms of straight ability, Dwight Stones, because both of these men can run faster than that. There's no question that Donovan Bailey can run faster than 15 seconds, and there's no doubt that on many times Michael Johnson has passed the 150-meter mark faster than 15 seconds. But for this day, it's definitely Donovan Bailey.
Michelle Tafoya is there with Michael Johnson. Michelle?
All right. Michael, you pulled up at about what point and what happened?
I felt my quad just tighten up coming out of the curve. It kind of loosened up, and I tried to keep running. Then it just went ahead and pulled, so, you know, it happened.
Had you seen any sign in your training or any kind of warm-up that anything like this would happen?
No, not at all. I've been very confident. My races have gone well. Training has gone well. That's what happened.
Obviously, you're very disappointed, but I've got to ask the question. Certainly, Donovan is going to claim now that he is the world's fastest man, and the word rematch has already come up. Can you even think about that at this point, or what will your response be to those who say that this clearly proves Donovan is the fastest man?
Well, even if I had won, and I feel very confident that I could have, people still probably would have said that. Some people would have said that. Everyone is always entitled to their opinion, and, you know, I can't do anything about that.
Michael, thank you for joining us. Let's send it back upstairs to Tim Ryan.
It's $1 million victory for Donovan Bailey. He was guaranteed $500,000. He gets $1 million more for the win. Michael Johnson was prepared to put up a winner-take-all pot of the entire $2 million, but Bailey did not accept that. Let's see it again. Watch on the turn, Michael Johnson.
On the right, Donovan Bailey. On the left, Michael Johnson. Bailey ran an incredible turn. Right there, as he came into the straightaway, you see the grimace on the face of Michael Johnson on the left. He said he thought it would loosen up, but then he had to pull out. Bailey never seemed to tighten and ran, Dwight Stones, just the most amazing turn I've seen him run.
Donovan Bailey ran that turn like a man possessed. He had a great start. He was ahead of Michael coming into the straightaway, which is almost incredible to imagine. Could Michael Johnson have caught him if he had not pulled up? We'll never know the answer to that question, at least not today. And the time for Donovan, he looked around the last couple of meters wondering where Michael was, no telling what he would have actually run, and he ran the race almost all by himself.
He didn't see that Bailey was not with him until the final 10 meters or so when he looked back. He had run a 14.92 over the same distance in August of '95 in a race against Linford Christie and others. Christie, the winner of that race, an unofficial time for Christie of 14.74. But Bailey ran as fast as he had to here today, with Michael Johnson unable to finish because of a pulled quad. We'll be back here at SkyDome with the winner, Donovan Bailey, the world's fastest man. We're back live at SkyDome. One more look at the stretch run here. Donovan Bailey and Michael Johnson.
Donovan Bailey and his coach Dan Paff said that they had something in mind. They had a strategy in mind. The way it looked to me was, as you see Michael Johnson pulling up on the left, he ran with shorter strides around the turn, and then he kicked in the home stretch. Never seen it before in the sprints. It was a secret weapon, and it worked today.
Well, they said they had a secret strategy, and I suppose all of his whining this last day or two has only been part of the hype. Let's go to Michelle Tafoya.
All right, with the winner, Donovan Bailey, congratulations. Describe the race from your point of view.
Well, I mean, I ran not as the first 20 meters wasn't as I planned it because the corner was a little tight. But I knew I'd catch him going into the stretch, and Michael Johnson's not a sprinter. He runs the 200 meters. So I know if I caught him coming into the stretch, I mean, it was over. And it was over. I mean, he cried foul. I guess he caught an injury. Oh, boy. I'll meet him again, though.
Many people will say that because he did pull up, this race does not answer the question. How will you answer that?
Well, I told him to watch the tape, and I'm sure Michael will be running in his next competition. He didn't pull up. He's just a coward.
You came into this race under much controversy. You issued a letter today to the public stating that you were racing under duress. Why was it important for you to let people know that?
Well, first of all, the track configuration that was in the contract was drastically changed. That's on the track right now. I guess to suit media, whoever was here. So it's the corner was much tighter than what I trained. But I'm home. I'm in Canada, and you know, I have a lot of friends and family here, as well as a lot of fans worldwide, even in America. And I just wanted to come and compete. I mean, walking away from this, the event was too big to walk away. So I just concentrated on running my race and just came down and do it.
The obvious question now is rematch. That word was even coming up before this race began. Under what circumstances would you agree to a rematch?
With Michael Johnson?
Yes.
There's no rematch. He's not a sprinter. I think that we leave the race to sprinters right now, and what we'll do is have there's Frankie, Otto, Linford. I mean, now we can get real sprinters in the event, so we can make it interesting.
All right, congratulations, Donovan. Let's send him back upstairs.
Thanks, Michelle. Not exactly a gracious champion, Donovan Bailey. Just pouring more fire on the coals after his victory over Michael Johnson. One more look at it here. Craig and Dwight.
Well, Tim, we talked about the boxing analogies. Was there a bit of rope-a-dope going on here? Donovan Bailey saying he was running under duress, claiming all sorts of difficulties with the turn. He ran an excellent turn. No bobble in his form, Dwight Stones.
And I hope he's wrong about Michael pulling up. I got to think that looks like an awfully honest grimace. But will there be a rematch? It will be interesting to see if it ever happens.
All right, thank you. So for Pat O'Brien, Craig Nasback, Dwight Stones, and Michelle Tafoya, I'm Tim Ryan saying so long from SkyDome, where Donovan Bailey has been crowned the world's fastest man. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports. Donovan Bailey, the world's fastest man.